Going live.
Oh, and you have to help me. I can't get any of the Tapstars email.
Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to Tuesdays with Terry, Real Estate Talk. Tonight, we are going to recap a little bit from the first 3 episodes of Tuesdays with Terry, and then we're going to delve into looking for your home, actually going out and looking for your home. So let me give a few seconds to let a few people log on, and I'll do some recapping. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to answer questions that have come in. We only keep you here for a half hour, so sometimes it's hard to get questions answered. So we've had some questions that came in, and tonight, after we recap, we're going to answer some of these good, relevant questions. The purpose of this exercise, Tuesdays with Terry, is to get people motivated to go out and take the steps necessary to buy that first home or buy another home. But a lot of the time we're looking at first-time home buyers. And we've been doing first-time home buyer workshops, seminars, boot camps for 10 years. And we've decided to move it online, make it a little bit shorter, make it easier for people. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to park. You don't have to, you don't have to come in and sit down and stay there for the half hour. These can be viewed later. They stay up on Facebook, and they are also posted on our real estate channel, Treasure Coast Palm Beach Real Estate. So let me just recap a little bit what we've talked about. The first week, actually the first 2 weeks, we talked about getting pre-approved for a loan and why that's important. You have to take that first step, and you really need to work with a lender that understands your situation and is willing to work with you, and also to have a realtor who's willing to work with you. You could be qualified right now to buy a house and get a pre-approval and go out and start looking immediately. Or it could take you a couple months to clear up some issues. And if that's the case, then you want to know that you're working with people that are going to stick with you and encourage you and motivate you to make those changes. It could take a little bit longer if you have some major issues, but I've worked with people that it's taken a year to get their credit healthy and be in a position to buy a house. And why do we ask you to get pre-approved? Because there's a difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification. Pre-qualification is basically, yeah, based on what you've told us, we think there's good possibility that you may qualify for a loan in X amount based on the income that you've told us and the debts that you've told us. A pre-approval goes a little bit deeper, requests information from you, and they do what's called a desktop underwriting. They use a software program, they run it through, and they see that the odds are that you'll probably qualify for a loan. Now, there's lenders that go beyond the desktop underwriting and actually do a complete underwriting. Those actually are the best lenders to have, because they're making a commitment based on the information that you've provided and the research that they've done. You will be approved for a loan, and that can save you a lot of heartache, because even with just a regular pre-approval with desktop underwriting, 70% of the people ultimately won't get that loan. Something will happen. Once it goes to underwriting, they may find something with the inspection report. They may find uh, something with the property. They may find something in your background. Maybe the student loans that you were paying off, you've just been making interest payments. And the lender that did the desktop underwriting didn't figure that in, didn't figure the total amount that you know. So that's why you need to have a lender and a realtor that will work with you. We also talked about buying a condo and a townhouse, how in the past that might have been difficult or impossible, but some of the laws have changed, some of the regulations have changed, some things have been relaxed. And with inventory shrinking, prices are likely to increase, meaning for a first-time home buyer, a townhouse or a condo might be the best step to get you in that first home. So let's move ahead to some of the questions that we've received over the past 3 weeks. Let me put my glasses on here so I can read them. How do I figure out where I want to live? Well, where you want to live and where you can afford to live are sometimes two different things. Everybody would love to live in the nicest neighborhoods with the best schools. Sometimes those are the properties with the highest property values, and depending on what you are pre-approved for, at this point in time, you might not be able to purchase in those areas. However, you can always look for the lowest priced home in those areas, or a condo or a townhouse in those areas. Now, what I've learned is to go back and drive the neighborhood, maybe on a weekend, maybe on an evening. You want to see what it feels like. Maybe you drive by at night and there are no street lights and it's really eerily dark, pitch dark, and you're not comfortable with that. So, when you see a house you like, you want to see it under a couple different circumstances. You want to drive by, you want to see, when people are out, maybe on a Saturday, outside working, are people friendly? I think that all contributes to finding out where you want to live. Another question: why can't I just go out and look at houses? Why do I have to talk to a lender? Well, there's two questions there. First question: why can't I just go out and look at houses? Well, you can, but let's say you go to an open house. When you go to that open house, there's an agent there or a realtor there, and that might be the person that you are stuck working with. Let's say you want to put an offer on that home, but you haven't talked to a lender yet, which is the second question. Well, it's going to take some time to get pre-approved for a loan. And by the time you go through that process, A, that house might be gone, or B, you might find out that that house is out of your price range. So those are two good reasons why you should speak to a lender first. My credit score is below 500. Do I have any hope of buying a house? Well, yes, you do. You need to get up to 580 to be able to get a lender to finance you. Some lenders, specifically banks, are in the 620 to 640 range right now. But there are lenders out there that will give you a mortgage if your credit is 580. But your credit score is not the only thing. It's the stability of your employment. How long have you been at your present job? Do you have any bankruptcies, any foreclosures in your past? That doesn't mean that you're not bankable, so to speak. But these are things that a lender can help you with. Now, your credit score is below 500. You need to get it to 580. Well, you want to have a lender run your credit report, number one. You want to look that credit report over. Now, keep in mind that many lenders go by the 70% rule. Okay. 70% of the loans are going to go through, 30% aren't. So they want to work with the 70% that they feel are sure things. That's why it's important to work with a realtor that understands the process, that has helped people through this process, and will stick with you to help you get that credit score up to 580. Because the lender, almost all lenders will tell you right off the bat, once they run your credit, what you need to do. That might be the only time they tell you that. You might not hear from them again. Some lenders will work with you. They will stay in touch, but really it's up to you to make those changes. And if you're working with someone like me, then that was the whole purpose of our boot camps when we had the boot camps. We stayed in touch with people on a weekly basis. Well, have you done this? Have you done that? Some things are simple. There might be some erroneous charge-offs or some erroneous charges on your credit report that you can get eliminated. There may be some things on that credit report that you can settle for 10 cents on the dollar, but you have to make sure that once you make that payment, that they take that off your credit report. And that's why you just don't want to go off on your own, start closing accounts, start paying off accounts, going on your own and contacting lenders because, or contacting bad credit sources, because that could start the clock ticking all over again. Once generally speaking, once a debt is 7 years old, then the debtor has pretty much lost their opportunity to collect from you. I've heard that it's almost impossible to finance a condo. Well, if you go back to, I believe it was last week's episode or the week before that, we talked for a half hour about how to finance a condo or a townhouse. Now, yes, it used to be almost impossible to finance a condo because most banks wouldn't loan, FHA wouldn't loan to buy a condo or guarantee a loan to buy a condo unless the condominium met certain financial obligations, which after the crash, most of them were unable to meet. Basically, it had to do with how much money you had in cash reserves, how many people are renters in the property. So it was very difficult. What happened was a lot of condominiums that had maybe 10, 15 buildings, they made each separate building a condo association. So if one condo association had a high number of renters, maybe the next condo association didn't. However, but they were also better able to establish cash reserves with a smaller number of units. They needed less money in cash reserves. Unfortunately, many of them still weren't able to meet the requirements of FHA with the cash reserves. And they also weren't willing to pay the fee and send in the paperwork to be approved by FHA. So what we had in Palm Beach County, where we had maybe a dozen condo associations that were approved for FHA lending. And those condos were, as you can imagine, they were in the upper price range because they could afford to have the cash reserves. And they didn't have a high percentage of renters because a lot of people owned the condo, didn't come down here during the summer, but they also didn't rent it out. So they didn't have They didn't have renters. So if you go back to that issue, it gets a little, if you go back to that show that we had 2 weeks ago, I go into specific details about how you can finance a condo. Now, straight financing, still 70% get denied. However, there are ways to do it. You may have to put a little bit more money down. You may be able to do a first and second mortgage. And that all depends on the lender, whether you do a full-blown application or you do a short application, because they're still going to require paperwork from the condo association. If they don't require the full financial report from the condo association, it's going to be easier to get a loan for that property. However, you're going to have to put about 20% down. You might be able to split that up into 2 different mortgages. You need to have a lender that understands that and has done condo loans currently, because for many years nobody was doing them. It just wasn't feasible. Is it harder to finance a condo for a 55 plus community? Yes and no. It's still a condo. Everything that I just said applies. However, like I said, many of the buildings started their own individual condo association. And with that, they have their own restrictions, rules, and regulations. Some of them require 20% down. Some of them require 25% down. So is it harder? It's not any harder. There just may be another hurdle that you have to go through. What should I look for in a house? Well, that's kind of a general question, but first of all, you should look for a house that you want to live in a neighborhood that you're comfortable living in. But the house needs to have good bones. And by bones, we mean structural. We mean a roof, because if it needs a roof, you're not going to get a finance. And if you're doing FHA guaranteed financing, that roof is going to have some time left on it, or they will not guarantee the loan. You want to look at the electrical box. Some electrical boxes are not insurable anymore. You want to look at the wiring in that electrical box. It's not that expensive to replace an electrical box, but if you have to replace the wiring also, then that can get a little expensive. The AC unit can get expensive. AC unit in a townhouse can get expensive because it has to usually go on top of the townhouse. So you have to have a crane lift it up there. Those are 3 or 4 main issues that you need to look at. And really, you're not going to get financing with those issues. So you don't want to go ahead and fill out the loan application, move ahead, knowing that the house has some issues that may preclude it from financing. How do you buy a foreclosure? Well, we're going to start to see more foreclosures. Buying a foreclosure is pretty much the same process as buying a regular house, except when you buy a foreclosure, if it's a bank-owned foreclosure, you're going to use their contract. Now, their contract is going to abide by all the rules and laws in the state of Florida, but it's pretty much a buyer beware contract. It really is an as-is contract, and they don't know anything about the house. They can't give you any information on the house, so you're on your own. Sometimes you can't even have an inspection because they won't turn the electricity on, they won't turn the plumbing on, and it makes it hard to do a full-blown inspection. That's the difference in buying a foreclosure. You don't get as much information and access to the property. What's the difference between a short sale? Well, a short sale is a lot different. Oftentimes the house is in better condition than the foreclosure, but the bank has to agree to sell you that property at the price that you've offered. The seller may have put the property on the market hoping that the bank will go ahead and accept an offer in that price range. They may not. They may have gone ahead and got approval from the bank to sell the house at that price, but there's a lot of levels of bureaucracy in a bank with a short sale, and it could take a long time, and it could fall apart at the end. It could take 6 months. During the height of the recession, it took sometimes up to a year. So I don't recommend for first-time home buyers a short sale or foreclosure. A foreclosure, if you're handy, and you can, and the house isn't that bad, and you can put some sweat equity into it, that's a different story. But for many first-time home buyers, it's a little risky. Are we in a buyer or a seller's market? We're in a balanced market right now. That could change. Balanced market means there's about 6 months of inventory on the market. The inventory is shrinking every month. Usually when inventory shrinks, prices increase. When prices increase, it becomes a seller's market. We're still in a balanced market. It's still a good time to buy a house. Interest rates are still low. Should I buy a home that needs renovation? Well, we just kind of touched on that. And for first-time home buyers, I would say no. If it needs a roof, you're not going to get financing. Are you in a position to be able to put $10,000, $20,000 into this house? You want to look at it as the repaired value of the property. And will you get a loan on that property in the condition that it's in? Now, there is a rehabilitation loan, a rehab loan. It's called an FHA 203K. It's really 2 loans in one. It's very tricky. You don't always get to make the repairs that you want to make. There's a limit of, I think it's $35,000, and there are fees. So you might end up with about $25,000. And they're going to send an approved contractor out who's going to tell you what repairs need to be made. And if there's any money left over, then you can make the repairs that you want to make. Why can't I find a home on the internet? Well, you can't. You can't find a home on the internet. But I would encourage you to then, when you find that home, to call the realtor that you're working with and not make that phone call yourself. You want to be able to choose the realtor that you work with. And you want to be able to get up-to-date information. That house may have been sold months ago. What's the difference between an agent, a realtor, and a broker? An agent is someone who passed their real estate exam, their state real estate exam. A realtor is someone who has passed their real estate exam and has taken additional courses, ethics courses, and also is a member of the local board, and as such abides by a code of ethics. You can file a grievance against a realtor more readily than you can an agent, and a realtor can face extra restrictions on their license or on a grievance from just an agent. A broker, well, every agent and realtor in the state of Florida has to work for a broker. So they have to work at an office, in an office. That's where their license is, and there's a broker that's over them. All the decisions are really made by the broker. What is a dual agent? A dual agent is an agent that represents both sides. Let's say you're out driving around, you see a sign on that house on the corner, and they're having an open house. So you stop, you go in, you talk to the agent, and they say, yeah. And then you decide you want to write it. Well, you're going to work with that agent. That agent's representing the seller and now representing you. So do you truly have somebody that's working for you. In reality, a dual agent, has doesn't have to give you all the information, limited information. Some states prohibit that. Florida doesn't. It's not a good idea. Get your own representation. How do I make an offer? Your realtor can help you with that. What you have to have is a pre-approval letter. 99.9% of all listing agents will not accept an offer without an approval letter from your lender specifically for that property. So that's how you make an offer. I'm worried about looking at houses during the pandemic. Well, everything's online now. I mean, we're open. You can now go look at houses. There are a lot of precautions that are taken. Most agents have little booties that you can wear when you go in. You can wear gloves. Most listing agents wipe everything down with antiseptic before you come into the house, or you can also do it online, an online showing. Do I need an attorney? No, you don't need an attorney. Our contracts, whether it's an as-is contract or a regular contract, have already been approved by the State Attorneys Association. They're called FAR bar contracts. You're buying a $3 million house? Well, yes. Then you need to have an attorney. What should I look for in a house or condo? You want to look, does it have an HOA? Does it have a COA? What are the regulations? What are the restrictions? Are there any assessments due right away? Roof, fuse box, AC. Do you see any signs of leaks or any repairs that were made? I have a friend who is a contractor. Can't I just have him look at the house instead of paying for an inspector? You can, but but your contractor friend is doing you a favor. They're a builder. They're not going to see, they don't know specifically what to look at. A home inspector goes to the appliances, pulls the appliances out, looks at the date on the appliances. I once had somebody who said, "Oh, the appliances and the cabinets are new." When the inspector came in, found out, well, the appliances actually weren't new. They looked brand new, but they weren't new, and neither were the cabinets. An inspector is going to help you with that. Inspector is going to go up on the roof. Some inspectors research the records. Was there a permit for the roof pulled? When's the last time a roofing permit was pulled? So yes, a condo, there aren't that many things to look at. If you're going to skip an inspection, maybe an inspection on the condo, yes, your contractor friend could probably help you out with the condo. What if an inspector finds something wrong with the house? Well, they are going to find something wrong with the house. They're all houses that have been lived in. None of them are in perfect condition. It just depends on what they find. Is that a deal killer? And it depends on what type of contract. A lot of people use as-is contracts down here, which specifically states you're buying the house as is. There's still room for negotiation there because you have a 10-day or a 15-day, whatever's in the contract period, to do an inspection and back out of the contract. So if they think that you're going to back out of the contract because some of these repairs, they might decide to go ahead and make some of these repairs rather than start all over again. How much do I need for closing? Is that my down payment? No, it's not your down payment. They're two different things. You should figure anywhere from 3 to 5% you will need for closing costs. That's on top of your down payment. If you're getting an FHA guaranteed loan, you're going to need 3.5% down. So if you're buying a $100,000 house, you're going to need $3,500 before they'll make the loan. You have to chip that in. You might be able to get some help with that. Maybe your lender will help with that. Maybe you can find a down payment assistance program, which was last week's show, which you can go ahead and revisit. But yes, you're going to need another $3,000 to $5,000 for closing costs. So if you have any questions, go ahead and post them here on this link on this Facebook site. Go ahead and email me at reed, R-E-E-D, group, GROUP at KW.com. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. You may give me a call, 561-340-9623. That's all the time we have tonight. Tune in for our next episode next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Tuesdays with Terry, talking real estate. Thanks. Have a great night.